Hey! Welcome to Wellness Wednesday, Native Wellness Institute. Yoo-hoo! Nistu Nidaniko Makoyo Sekoyi. I'm part of the Native Wellness Institute's larger team. We're spread out all over the United States, and our main office is in Gresham, Oregon. And you can go to www.nativewellness.com to request anything, or to comment, or to just celebrate with us that we're in a beautiful world today. It's Wellness Wednesday. If it's your first time seeing us, we've been doing the Power Hour. I think we have like 500. We started in March 2022. Nistu, Scott Pipikani. I'm from the Blackfoot Nation. I'm from the Blackfoot Confederacy. My mom, who's 85, just celebrated her 85th birthday. But it's just such a pleasure. Wellness Wednesday. I just finished with Susanville Rancheria, cultural responsiveness, and we just finished Indigenous Knowledge Circle, where we smudged and we talked about medicines. And so I just want to say hello. It's Wellness Wednesday. And last Wednesday, I'll just say this, just a note, when you're in Canada, they monitor what is published, and sometimes and I'm not sure, because I mentioned Israel and Palestine's, they didn't let it air in America. It was just a short sentence, but it was about Wellness Wednesday, about mind, body, and spirit. And those of you who come to Native Wellness Institute, we try to keep the teachings of our ancestors alive. And so anything that falls under that umbrella of keeping our teaching of our ancestors alive, we do. So I just wanted to just share with you. We've been in a talking circle, but I'm in a very sacred spot. And in a moment, I'll give you a view of. I'm in the mountains, where I was told by Teresa Dixon that this was where the bear dance started. And let's just give you a little peek. This is just a average Indian home, getting ready for winter, getting all their wood. This is average Indian kid playing on a trampoline, and reservation dogs. And you see some of our firefighters walking right there, and then you can get a glimpse of the mountains. Look at the color right there. And there's the mountains. I just have such good feeling, and I'm sitting right where the kids play. This is the resource center. So I just wanted to give you a look around, because Wellness Wednesday is about how in different rancherias, because this is Susanville Rancheria, different reserves up across Canada, different villages in Alaska, and different tribal nations, about how they do wellness. So it's really good to see all of you. I see some of your names, and I don't respond because we only got an hour. So I wanted to start. I wanted to start with just a little bit of dialogue on the beauty of the killer of the flower moon. And as you can see, my book is a little bit tattered, and so far I've only gotten this far in the book. And so I wanted to, and that's just me, because when I started, but let me back up a little bit. I was given this book when I went to Geronimo, Oklahoma, in 2019 for a young Washoe man that was getting into UC Berkeley. And so we traveled out there, and someone gave me this book, and I started reading it then. And every time I would read it, it brought sadness to me because of what Molly and her sisters had to go through. And I just want to say that, so I would read a little bit at a time, and I would journal. So I'd read like a few pages and I would journal. Then I'd read a few more pages and I would journal. And at that time, I was journaling 100 pages of self-love, because after the pandemic, we really have to do self-care and wellness of our own. So I was writing in that journal, and I was just thinking, it's in my bookcase now because I finished that, and now I'm journaling burnout prevention, and I'm journaling in escape and breathing. That's my journal that I'm, but this book right here, Killer of the Flower Moon, it's a bestseller, and in 2 days, let's see, today's the 18th, on the 20th, the movie will debut all across America. Not necessarily across Canada and other places, because sometimes I learned this with Reservation Dogs. Reservation Dogs airs on Hulu in America, but it's a couple weeks later that it airs in Canada, and a month or two later that it airs in Europe. So that's kind of interesting, because the brainwashing from continent to continent. But this is a beautiful healing book, and I just want to give a shout out to Lily Gladstone. Lily is Amskapi Pikani native. She is from our tribe. She is our niece. She's our daughter. She's just brilliant, and she's an up and coming, and she's in this movie. And I just wanted to start because I was thinking, gosh, I've known Lily quite some time, and so all you Jackie Keelers, bug off, because you talk to me. She's a real Indian. She's not a pretend Indian. I was just like, so, but who is Lily Gladstone? Lily Gladstone comes from a large family that are descendants from Red Crow up around Abutsapikani and Kainai. But Lily, I just wanted to highlight, Lily was always a curious respecter of ceremony, respecter of our language, respecter of our elders. She was raised in a family that really, some of her uncles, Jack Gladstone and Alex Gladstone, they were heroes because they got sober a long time ago. Alex Gladstone, I think I'm 67 and a half years old, and look at me, woohoo! But I was thinking, Alex, I think, is a couple years older than I am. But Alex Gladstone, he's also a Ganaxtimada, Nistu Ganaxtimada from Skapi Pikani. I was transferred in 2007 and worked really hard. Still work, because you're never off duty. But as I get older, my obligations and my responsibilities aren't as harsh. Like, I don't have to go dig the toilet holes anymore. I don't have to peel all the teepee poles anymore unless I want to. I don't have to chop all the wood. I don't have to go get the wild rhubarb. Just all of these sacred things that I used to love to do that. I used to love to build lodges. I loved contributing to the cooking, for hundreds of people, singing along, and I was just, but as you get older, you transfer into, like I said, I'm not digging toilet holes anymore, chopping wood for hundreds of people. Although I think I could, but I think I'd be exhausted. It's humorous. So But Lily plays a very important role in my life. I remember her asking questions about a beaver bundle, and I said, well, just come and sit and pray and sit beside me and listen. And I remember she did, and I just saw her give reverence to that ceremony. And I just, I'm not here to describe that ceremony, but I saw her give reverence, I saw her pray, and I saw her get in touch. And I'm just, we're going to have some special guests here from Susanville, so I see one coming near. Come on over if you're going to sit down, have a moment. So so Lily Gladstone. So let me finish the Lily Gladstone story. So and this just has to do, in 2022, the makers of Reservation Dog, the Sterling, the Tazbaz, and all of their crew. Give me a couple minutes, and then yeah. No, I wanted to interview you. Yeah, give me a couple minutes. We recruited because in Native with the Wellness Wednesday, we like to have spontaneous interviews, and so we have our first one that has just arrived. So what Lily did, and this is why I think that this book is so important. It's important to know the Osage history and the character that she plays, Molly. And Lily was when Tazba and Sterling and the crew were looking to audition me. It was in April, I don't know, like the beginning of April 2022. And they kept emailing me. And they finally emailed Native Wellness and said, we want to talk to Theda. So this was a Saturday when I finally talked to them. And I said, well, when do you need the audition? And Lily, I phoned my other niece, Mariah, and then I phoned Lily, and so I drove her over in a snowstorm, and she did the audition. Welcome. Oh, awesome! We're on live right now, so I would if you wouldn't mind both sitting here, because I wanted to. I'm going to have you. This is the screen that we're on. We have thousands of people watching, and I just wanted to ask some questions. So, okay. So who wants to be interviewed? Okay. We're at Susanville, and I'll show you. This is what's going on. Okay, just wave at everybody. There we go. Okay. And then Sister's going to come over. Thank you for stopping by. You have a beautiful clinic. You have beautiful resources, and they'll tell you all about it.
All right. Well, thank you for coming. We
Okay.
appreciate it. Yeah.
All right. Awesome. So what were we doing here? One of the reasons we were asked to come here is for cultural responsiveness and wellness in the workplace. And what was beautiful is they brought all of their wildlife, firefighters, management. So they work in the mountains. They were the perfect. So we had more men than women. And we had from 19 years old to 70 years old, and we had the doctors and the nurses, and we had social service, and it was just so beautiful. So we're gonna interview our sister, who is head of and they call them CEOs of and she can answer some of the questions. But what I'd like to share with you, it was so beautiful. We decided to move outside, and we moved all of the chairs in a circle. So with Native Wellness Institute, you know that we always do everything in a circle, because in a circle, everybody is equal. And just come sit whenever you're ready. I'm glad he stopped by. That's beautiful. The chairman. And so I'm going to ask Sister to come closer, because this is our screen here, and there. Okay, and so we'll both be in screen. So what I wanted to first introduce yourself, and your people and how you came to work here. Can you do that?
Yes. My name is Lona Marino Bonatoro. I'm the CEO for Lassen Indian Health Center. I am a native of New Orleans, Louisiana. I just learned something today. Don't call myself Mutt, but we are considered like Creoles. So we have Indian, French, Spanish, a bunch of mixtures. But I have been working 40 years in Indian country, developing healthcare systems for underserved communities. And Susanville has been one of my greatest challenges, and hence we just started construction finally. And this is what I'm here to do, and I have enjoyed my journey in life in doing this.
Oh, awesome. And so when I came here, I was greeted with respect. I was greeted with council members. I was greeted Teresa Dixon, who's the security at the casino here. She actually drove down to Reno and picked me up. And I know Teresa from Women in Wellness way back with Cecilia Fire Thunder. And we had met at Brooks, California. In 2000, right before I went on Reservation Dogs. We were in Brooks, California. There was 600 Rancheria Californians, and Brooks hosted us, and we had our Healing Together conference. And so, since I have this guest, one of the things that I seen today was calm, funny. I mean, these guys are funny. I saw good humor, and we had really good questions. But for our audience, could you tell from your interpretation what was going on here? What happened today from 8 to noon?
It was awesome. It was about cultural responsiveness or responsibilities in the workplace. Our staff, which is mixed, and you know, we deal a lot with understanding culture. She touched very well on historic trauma, even though at some point, like one of the staff said, the analogy, you know, if you grow up and your mom doesn't like tomatoes and she teach you not to like tomatoes, you grow up not liking tomatoes. And if you don't venture out and say, let me try it, you might find out you may like tomatoes. So when we dealing with 4 tribes that have historical trauma, they look at outside in the workplace as those, I don't like tomatoes. And so we have to teach them how to work with them to say, well, at least try the tomato before you say you don't like the tomato, and how they can be a appropriate tomato, and actually learn how to work with the tribes in which we work with. Learn more about the tribes, which you touched on beautifully, and understand the differences. And, you know, I always say they're not difficult, they're just different, and we have to understand those differences. So I thought this just led to a summary of what we really need to do is have you come back for a really deep 3-day session.
So can you name the 4 tribes?
Maidu, Pit River, Washoe, and Paiute.
Paiute. And I guess I'm gonna get in the frame. We're just again, I always do a power hour with my iPhone. So I was thinking about an elder I knew, and her name was Balma Jones, and she is Washoe, was Washoe in the spirit world. She's still Washoe. She had an oldest son, and his name was Mike Jones, and we went to UC Berkeley together. And I started at UC Berkeley in 1974, so that was the first time that I met Washoe people. And prior to that, what I had heard was that they made robes out of rabbits, like 900 rabbits, like 1,000 rabbits. And I always thought, well, they're kind of like us, like with buffalo robes. I thought, but I remember Balma, and she was adamant about the sovereignty of Washoe Nation. She was adamant about keeping the language of the Washoe Nation. She was adamant about keeping the rites of passage and the rituals. And she lived in Markleyville. And I just remember meeting Mike, and he was in his 30s and I was 19 years old. So he was like my big brother. and his sister named Diane Jones was also my sister. We ran from DQ to Los Angeles 4 times in 1980, 1981, 1982, and 1984. And I'm mentioning her because she taught me, I learned cultural responsiveness about Washos from Balma Jones and their family. And so I just mentioned that, but one of the teachings before that, and maybe I wanted to ask you a question, is we had learned that when the Europeans first came this way to Donner Pass, we learned that they didn't know the area, and God bless them. They didn't know what they were getting themselves in to try to cross in the winter. Mm-hmm. I remember at UC Berkeley, I had to read a book called Rabbit Boss. And I learned it was about the Donner Party and how they, one by one, they ate all their food. They couldn't build a shelter, and they had to shelter in. And then some of their members froze to death. And they were at the point where there was literally nothing to eat except what was frozen in the snow. Themselves. And so in order to live, and that has to do with all human nature. Mm-hmm. And we thought about that during this pandemic, because we really saw that our mortality could be long time or soon. And I say that and I laugh because we really got in touch with how sacred life is. How sacred it is to be able to breathe, how sacred it is to have food, how sacred it is to make a dental appointment and how sacred it is to come to your clinic here. Mm-hmm. So tell us about these 4 tribes, what you have learned. And how long have you been working here now?
12 years.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I just have to say, what I saw is the staff here has reverence for you. They listen to you, they respect you, and I never heard you yell or give an order. I just saw that when you walked into the room, you had respect. So, tell us about the healing in this 12 years. What kind of healing have you witnessed with the 4 tribes, or even today? I was overwhelmed with the young men here. The 19-year-old, the 20-year-old, the 30-year-old, the 40-year-old. Mm-hmm. The men had such reverence for women. And it was because we talked about hunting, we talked about guns, we talked about nature, we talked about Bigfoot. Even if you tell. So I just, that's like a large question. So what would you say is like the good things about these 4 tribes? What have you witnessed?
That's a tough one.
Yeah. Okay.
But so I actually did 12 years in Alaska, above the Arctic Circle, with the Athabasca Natives. I had 10 tribes. And once I finished the facility, Susanville started trying to grab me around 2009, but I wasn't finished. So when I came in 2011, the peace I felt in this whole area, the beautiful, just the nature in itself. Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, she's telling me look in the camera.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I didn't apply, but I came and saw the land. And I stood in the casino, and as I was walking from the casino down to visit with the tribe and to see the clinic, a bald eagle came down, flew over my head, circled twice or 3 times, and then flew up. And so I didn't say anything, but when I came here, the consul, which was Madeline, sitting next to me, was one of the only female on the Tribal Business Council here. I began to tell her of my experience and how I knew I'm going to be here and I'm going to build this clinic, in spite of all the difficulties. And she goes, no way, you didn't see no bald eagle. She said, their Como is extinct. It's a hawk. I said, I know what I saw. Yeah. And when I went back to Alaska, basically they told me that
we're live.
The bald eagle pretty much meant that I was on the right path. So when I came into Susanville, my goal was to say, okay, how can we bring healing? How can we bring some of the cultures back to,
Okay.
how can we bring some of the, one of the things I learned, because when I do things in Alaska, because it's, different, the guy always tell me, the Alaska Natives, the traditions are a little bit different than the American Indians. So when I came, I started trying to learn some of the traditions of the 4 tribes, and I learned it was really scattered. And so I did some history, and that's how I was able to share that Susanville had so many clans. There was homeless Indians that they tried to eliminate, terminate, and then they brought back rejuvenation, which the landless, homeless Indians that was here actually farmed together, creating the 4 tribes, Maidu, Pit River. But within those 4 tribes, there's still various customs and traditions and cultures. So I'm still trying to figure out how we can bring that, what significance that we have. And the only thing I can find so far has been the acorn. And so I'm trying to figure out how I can use the acorn to do some traditional healing, bring back traditional healing within Susanville as we open a new clinic. And that's why I wanted to invite you to the site.
Ah, and so I right when you said acorn, I first encountered rancherias and acorns in, let's see, I was 7 years old, so about 60 years ago. Because in the San Francisco Bay Area, there was a lot of tribes from other states, but there was a lot of California Indians, and somebody made acorn soup. And I just remember, because where I came from, in the Blackfoot Confederacy, food and meat and soup were precious, especially if you made it from a buffalo tongue, if you made it from, I grew up eating wild meat, but I remember when I ate acorn soup, I felt like it was holy. Like I thought, oh, okay. And then I found out that it was very hard to get acorns. They talked about strychnine. They talked about the ceremonies to go get it. They talked about preparing it. And so it's really good to hear that you're taking that sacred medicine of acorn. And then most recently, I was just thinking a lot of the tribes that I've worked with, all 87 rancherias, there's more now. Hoopa is the only reservation in California by act of Congress that is a reservation. But I've been given beaded acorns where they're like beaded. Today I'm wearing a native diva creation. But I remember the first time I received an acorn, beaded acorn, and I keep it with my sacred things, and I do wear it once in a while when I come to California. So my next question is, and I love that you talked about Alaska, because a lot of Tiffany, if you guys are out there, up in Dillingham, Agnes Denny up in the Yukon, Faith Peters with the real Yukon men and the Yukon ladies, and Pat Stanley with the Pat Stanley. I worked with Pat Stanley, training their prevention. Sharon Mayo, Vina Tai, Circle. We want to say hi because I know some of you watch this, and I'm going to send it to you. So, can you talk about the similarities of what you saw in Alaska and what you see here, in addition to the acorn that you think you want to concentrate on?
Well, we considered patterns as far as how we, the bear was a significance here. We have bears and they have bears, so we thought about bears and stuff like that. Here they do not touch the bear, but there we're in some portions allowed to eat the bear ribs. And so when we talked about that as a part of healing, it just went, nah. So I'm just trying to find out what we can do here and how we can. I mean, I went out to the petroglyphs. We went out and got Basket making is another thing here that we may not do
Oh,
in Alaska that I may can incorporate with some kind of healing.
oh, yeah,
But I think the most thing I see is the areas, the beauty of the land
yeah.
that the natives lived on, and the peaceness and the calm that it instills in the area.
Yes. When and I don't want to put Teresa on the spot since I've known Teresa. We've been in many arenas over the years, and I just really appreciated her. But and I, don't. I'm just learning too. She said that they're trying to that the bear dance was done at this mountain right over here, and man, my ears just perked up because bears are very significant to many tribes, and you might even want to put in the comments what bears are to you. But Kyayo, like the black bear, or Boxique, the grizzly bear, we still have them where I live. I have 7 grizzly bears living around my house right now, but the bear is very significant because it's like our brother. We don't eat them. We can't, even if the ribs are real good with barbecue sauce on it. We can't eat with it
And they were good.
because it's like eating your brother. But I noticed, okay, so she just shared that there was the bear dance, and now the 4 tribes are trying to interconnect their history. And we're in an area where there was a gold rush, conquistadors came. There was actually bounty on some of the tribal people here, but most in the past 20 years, there's been a resurgence of culture, a great resurgence of culture. And so, can you talk about that resurgence? Like, is there like language classes? Is there like singing? Is there sweats? Or do people get sober here, or do they still drink whiskey?
We have sobriety wellness, but a couple of years ago we started. They had the ANA language classes. We're trying to get them to emerge it into the school, primary school here education system. We have several programs that we offer for wellness, and the tribe here partake in it, such as, like you said, sobriety, substance abuse counseling, just what I'm trying to put in a new clinic is something culturally appropriate on how we can bring culture in other than just medicine.
Ah, okay, okay.
So we talk about holistic healthcare. So our new clinic is really kind of being constructed based on the medicine wheel,
Oh,
or should
really?
I say the cultural wheel?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
we want to bring in that holistic part, putting in sweats. We have sweats. But we actually going to build in a sweat outside of the facility just for some cultural holistic healing. So
Oh, that's beautiful. One of I know, indigenous people are used to looking in each other's eyes, so that's why
oh, excuse me.
we're yeah. But we're looking at you guys' eyes. Let me see. What do I see? Is I was thinking about the friendship house in San Francisco, and I was raised with Betty Ann Cooper, Yellow Flower Woman, and she had New Dawn Lodge in Oakland, and she had White Cloud Lodge in Oakland in the 80s. And so there was a men's healing treatment and a women's healing treatment, and she brought them together. And then she actually, if it was a man and the wife was still drinking, she brought the man and the children in. And if it was a woman who wanted to quit drinking, and she'd bring her children. So it actually became a family healing center. And when my mother was the director, and this is early 80s, the first thing she put in was an arbor for talking circles and for ceremony and for naming and for rituals, and then a sweat lodge. And a woman named Marilyn Circle Eagle, beautiful. She really helped me because I got sober in 1988, first by intervention and going to Betty Ford Center. and then I relapsed, and then I was put in an all-women's treatment program called the Meadows. And I thank my boyfriend at the time, Tom Trimble, because he had good insurance, and it paid for me getting sober. So thank you, Trimble family. If you're out there listening, you know, Kitsikakamim, I love you. But I remember the sweat lodge, and the first time, because I knew the sweat lodge in my Blackfoot way, and when I was drinking, I had so much shame. I had so much shame because I knew I was not supposed to be around holy things or sacred things, or desecrating our ways. So as I drank more, I stayed away. And I remember, you know, going to, right before I got sober, going to my mom's program, and they'd say, you should come sweat with us. But I didn't feel worthy. I didn't feel worthy. But I remember the first time I felt worthy because I had been clean and sober for some time. And by some time, I think it was only about a year and a half or so. So at that first year and a half of sobriety, you're skittish because you're turning into a new person. And so I was just learning, and I wasn't good. I couldn't hang around my old friends. I couldn't go where I was triggered to drink. There was like all of this, and I had like a sponsor. Rose Abbott was one of my, Linda Woods, Wanda Frog, Harold Balmont, John Spence, Jock Pipe. I can tell you these were Ozzie Williamson. These were all of my mentors, because they had seen in me that I already had the addiction, but they didn't shame me. They just kept saying, when you're ready.
When you're ready.
When you're ready. And so I wanted to talk about the sweat lodge, and then I want to hear more from you. Okay, I remember the first time I went out there, and they had just finished a sweat, and I asked Marilyn, I said, is it okay if I just go in there and sit and pray by myself? And she goes, okay, yeah, there's some smudge, you can put it on the rocks. The rocks are still hot. And I remember going in there and just feeling at peace. I remember taking, she had sweetgrass, they had sage, but then once I smelled it inside the sweat, it brought back all these memories as a child, because I had been around Okan Medicine Lodge. I had been around ceremonies with my iron pipe relatives. And all of my ancestors were sitting with me in that lodge, and all I did was cry till my snots came out. So I was like sitting in the sweat lodge, and that's where my greatest healing began. So tell us more. What else did we hear today? The young man that asked the question, and it was a safe place, because he said, "What is nepotism?" Woohoo! And he was with a bunch of older people, and he wanted to understand it, and so we got to talk about that. So, what you've been here 12 years, and you're the expert right now.
Okay.
You got 12 years of expertise. So when you have a non-native come to work, what kind of orientation do you think should be? What should they go through so that they know these 4 tribes and they can be respectful to these 4 tribes?
The surroundings, like you said, the history of the tribes, but also the conditions. When you're doing recruitment and you want to retain people, you don't know what they don't know, so we don't assume. For example, I came from New Orleans to Alaska, right? I was on my first visit, beautiful pictures. They told me it was cold, but in my mind, cold was probably 70 degrees. I didn't know it would be 100 and something below zero or something like that. So I go on an interview on a plane, dressed just like a Westerner, suit, skirt, stockings, high heels, stepped off the plane in snow above my knees.
So
So,
I love this. Please tell us more.
so and I sung. I didn't see anybody at first. The village everybody was, winter time, and all of a sudden someone showed up and they gave me a pair of snow boots. But they didn't have any rubber on the bottom, so every time I was walking to my destination, I would slide and fall. I was like, so I think the first thing is, acclimation up to where we going. And then when I would invite our workers into the towns and the villages, we not know how many don't even know how to start a fire, or how many don't know certain things, as well as what we don't know about their own culture. So I think the first important thing is to acclimate them about your culture, your surroundings, and your area.
Yes, yes. And I just thank you. I love your candidness. So, what else about orientation? Because, I was just, we have to behave better after this pandemic.
Yes.
We have to behave better with each other. And so sometimes I think it's just taking someone by the hand and walking the neighborhood, like be in the hood, like walk the hood, eat some of what people eat in the hood, or the res. I say the hood because I live in Bab Hood. I'm a Babylonian, and I think it's getting to building a relationship,
Building that trust.
Can you talk more about how do you build that trust?
I'm going to just use me as an experience. And I'll just thought, because my first experience was in Alaska when I stepped off the plane and go, what's your business here? What you doing here? You got 6 months and you out of here.
I just love it.
That's what he told me.
That's what he told.
And I go, okay. And so I went into the community, and what I did is I did a little study. So I happened to get some moose meat before I went in, and I made moose meat gumbo, which is similar.
Oh, moose meat gumbo. Oh, okay, this is sister. Okay, moose meat gumbo.
So we had the community meet, and I introduced myself, and I kind of share because actually one of the things I learned is our Creole language, which we may say Masi Buku, is closer to the Athabasca language, Masi Cho. Some of the music, the dancing, so some of the stuff was alike. So I started off by sharing the moose meat gumbo and talking about some of the cultural differences of where I come from, and then talked about what my skill sets was and how I can try to help the community, because I didn't just go there. They searched for me because they didn't want male, they didn't want white, they didn't want female.
It's okay. So they didn't want white.
I don't know what I can say.
It's okay. They wanted someone that they could ally with, and someone, and this is hold up because like we're almost the same color. And I'll just say this because, and I say this in preciousness, is I remember when we first started doing diversity work in the 1960s, and it said we had to respect those darker than a paper bag, because those lighter than a paper bag that could pass for white have a different experience than those who are darker than a paper bag. And so we're about the same color because this is the funny, when I got here because Teresa had to go to work, she's security, all that. She dropped me off and I got situated, and then I wanted to go hike in the mountains. You know me, I'm always walking around, but I got into the neighborhood and it was getting dark, and I looked at how I looked. So I thought they could look out the window and say, "Ooh, there's one of those. We don't know who that is. We better call the police." No, she might be here to rob us. No, they didn't know I'm just here to make you laugh. Anyway, I just what you were saying about building that trust. I started working in Alaska in 1990 with the staking ceremony. And in Alaska, every November, all the villages would come together, and there was like David Sam, Nick Gonzalez, Doug Modoc, Amy Modoc, and there was many more. I'm just naming some of the few. They had a staking ceremony where it was the four colors of like the medicine wheel, and it was, and I don't think I have one in my bag, but I might. No, I think it's at home. It was a stake, and it was, they used a ceremony of warriors where you take the stake and you make a statement. You, like, before, warriors, when they knew they were going to fight to the death, they would take a long piece of leather, they would tether it, and they would put the stake in the ground, and they would fight to the death for the people. They would fight to protect women, children, and the tribe and the village. And so they used that staking ceremony, and those that wanted to have a say-so about sobriety. So when you staked it down, you pledged for. So when I got my stake, I pledged to be sober. And it was early in my recovery, because that the first 5 years of sobriety is a building foundation. So I was shaky. But I remember being in Alaska and all those Alaskan natives singing and dancing, and they had big drums. They had like these big boom, boom, and they were dancing and they were singing, and the women, there were similarities of spirit with their hands. And I just remember when I got that stake, it felt like it fortified, like I was a sobriety warrior, and I still have that stake. So that was in the night, I started going there, and I remember feeling like I had lived there before, maybe in another life. But I think it was because they lived like Blackfeet did. They hunted. It was communal. I remember seeing my dad with pack horses and bringing home hindquarters and going and giving it to the elders. He had so many horses, he gave all the families meat, and then we had meat. I just thought everybody did that. Like, so, when you go to Walmart, get a couple extra bags and go and give it out. Yeah, so so what else would you like to say about Susanville? Because I got gifted two pieces of beautiful abalone. Can you tell us something? Why is abalone so important?
I'm still learning why. I don't know why. I do know it's more on the coastal side
Okay,
of
okay.
California, and they use more abalone here, but not here in Susanville. What we have been finding a lot here in Susanville is a lot of arrowheads, a lot of, and that, I think, so the history that I've done, when, like I said, when the Westerners came in, most of your native territory was right here.
Okay.
And all the way down on 395 as you were coming into Susanville in 36. Well,
Okay.
when the Westerners came in, they put cinder blocks around them and they drowned them in these lakes. That's why we don't use a lot of the lakes around here. So when you mention fresh water, they kind of looked at you. Or today, when you mentioned fresh water,
Yeah.
you didn't notice how they looked at you?
Yes, I did. No, they said we were talking about using captured water, like, a captured orange juice in here, or captured, when we were looking for fresh water. But there was a young man who said he knew freshwater creeks.
Yeah, he knew of one or two, yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe we can get him to show us. But they was buried in those lakes. And the people, the tribes here. And so a lot of the culture here do not use these lakes. Okay, so basically we kind of, when they came in, and there was no health care, no nothing, so they would drive 2-3 days just for health care. But that's why we're trying to get health care here. So now the city is encroaching now in Susanville territory.
I
So
see.
as we explore, we're finding more like I said, arrowheads and stuff like that. And the only thing else I can find is the acorn. So we still trying to learn more about the histories of the tribes, other than them totally eliminating them, trying to eliminate them. And I hate to say it, but I think it's still true to this day. We're still fighting for services for the populations here in Susanville.
No, but thank you for saying that. And I know you have a paycheck. And I know when we have a paycheck, we want to shed good information and correct information about. I'll say what I have seen here. When I came here, I was, first of all, picked up as an elder, I mean, Teresa drove all the way from here, 78 miles, to pick me up. She fed me and she visited with me, and then she gave me a guided tour for the 78 miles.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to not, so when I'm getting a tour, I just shut up. I just listen, 2 ears, 1 mouth. And she would say, this is this valley, Honey Valley, Honey Lake.
Mm-hmm.
And then I go, wow, it looks like your water's way down. She said it's an alkaline lake. And then she would say, this mountain is where they found a mammoth.
Mm-hmm.
And then over here was where there was first settlers. You could still see the old housing. And then she started talking about, I said, because your land looks like where I come from, parts of in Montana and going into Alberta. And so what we did was find common ground. And so then as she was coming in, I had some Angelica that Mike Duncan had given to me when we were together. So I knew that was the medicine, Angelica. So I went and lit some in the room, and they said you can't light smudge in the room. You started fire. So I opened the window. I said, okay, I'll do it outside. But I just remember what I seen here was everyone visited with me, even like the street people. I ran into some street people to start talking. How you doing? How you doing? And they were like, hey, welcome. They welcomed me. They treated me like an elder. And I just said, well, there's some good people here. There's some good people here.
Yes.
And I felt safe. I felt safe, and I felt listened to. And these 4 hours that I spent with your staff, I really felt respected. I really felt there was good questions asked. And you referred to, I always say, don't call yourself a mutt. Claim all the, and one of our participants had 7 different, including Aboriginal from Australia. So you guys know we just came from Vancouver. So I got 2 sticks that the Aboriginals had given to me in Vancouver. And she started hitting them, and we all got up and danced. So we had, even though we were celebrating culture.
Yes.
And even though we may not know the exact Aboriginal dancing, we were learning together. So by singing, and our one sister sang, if you could talk about our one sister, the song maybe that she sang, she didn't have a clapper, but she was using her hand was her clapper, and she sang our opening song. And then we had our tribal chairman came, the vice chairman came, and we were celebrating culture together. So kind of in our some of our remaining time, what do you think? How are you going to celebrate? You said, where'd you get the money to build a new clinic? They're building. I'm going to go get tour of the clinic. Tell us the wishes of the clinic. What's going to be there when you walk in the door? What kind of services can you get in this clinic?
Mm-hmm. So I would love to share, but basically it's going to be holistic medicine, medical, dental, behavioral health. We're adding in dialysis, optical, one-stop shop.
Ooh.
Because we are the only healthcare facility on the eastern side of the Sierras. And so most of our tribe has to drive to Nevada for services or up to Redding in California. So our hopes is to bring everything here, and the tribe is so gracious, and like you said, they are very friendly. They have opened it up to not just tribal health, but to the community as well.
Oh, I love that. So that means anybody in the community, regardless of what color, race, or creed, they can come to your clinic?
Correct.
Oh, I like that. I like that. And that, I'll share a short story and then ask you for your closing comments. When we got the vaccine in our area, we have 65 miles on the border. We had so much vaccine. This is in December 2020. We wanted to vaccine our Alberta relatives. So we actually opened it up. And so anyone in Alberta, so there was for 8 hours there was lines of cars because they didn't have the vaccine yet. And we, in our health professionals, I know my niece Tristan Fitzgerald, the THIP program, they had all coordinated with the border, and because we were trying to save lives. So if we think about healing is trying to save lives, we vaccinated everybody. And just like your clinic, if we start to think about opening the door to everyone to receiving health, because like here, one of the participants who had type 2 diabetes wanted to know what the medicine is, and I've discussed that with you before. Devil's Club and the leaves of Savisberries or Saskatoons made into a tea helps jumpstart your ability to make insulin. So you could tell we talked about medicines. One of my brothers just brought me some bear root because uh, we want to exchange medicine, and I'm going to send him some sweet pine. So it's exchange, no money. We're opening the door. If we know a medicine, we should share it with others and teach them how to go get it. So it isn't just dependent on a clinic. It's there's I'm just somehow I just want to go in your mountains because I think there's medicine everywhere. I think there's medicine in this tree. I think there's medicine in these leaves. I'm just looking up this way, and then you have hunters. I see the hunters going out and all the wood, they're getting ready for winter. Man, I just love this place. So we're winding down. What are your closing comments? What would you? A lot of our audience are those out there. They just want to know more about wellness and how they could take care of themselves as helpers. What kind of closing comments would you give to them? Because this woman knows a lot.
I don't know about that, but I will say I think you in your comments today was very important. In order to get started, you just have to pick something that you're passionate about. Even if it's just within yourself, something you want healing, if it's sobriety. Like you said, start something that you can share with others in your community. And even if it's in the native way, don't be afraid to share it outside into the community because that's how they understand. I think we're creating a better understanding now of why Susanville India Rancheria is here. And actually, they're helping us build the clinic, get permits and stuff that we probably would be fighting about today if we not explain why we here and why we trying to heal. Because it's not just us, it's all of us. But do something you're passionate with, start and make a difference in the community. Even if it's non-smoking. If you could quit, help someone else stop.
That's so beautiful. And then you mentioned Creole. Okay, so one of my mother's passions, and she wanted to. I was in New Orleans, and my mother always wanted to learn more about Black Indians. And can you just where you were born and raised, can you just educate us on Creole, Black Indians?
Sure.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm over 60, so I have a little knowledge, but not much. But back in the day, it's just like y'all say, y'all have your reservation. We had our area, and the only way you was allowed in our area, they would put a brown paper bag over your hand, and if you was lighter, or even in some cases darker than that brown paper bag, you was not allowed in that area, and the customs, traditions was within the family. One thing I learned, I'll be candid about this, is they kept it within. So like my grandmother and my grandfather were two first cousins. And four of their brothers married four of their sisters. And it just kept going on and on and on. I know we talked about that in the past when they talked about incest and stuff like that. But I think it was just their way of keeping their culture and their significance of what they knew alive.
Okay, okay.
Did that make sense?
No, that makes
That's
a
what
lot
I'm
of sense.
understanding.
And see, and that makes so much sense, and I'm holding your hand because remember putting that paper bag, that in the 60s when we began to open up diversity and to appreciate others' cultures and not have white supremacy attitude of being better than that. You said if they were darker, they weren't allowed in. So it was about skin color. And so I can say on this Wellness Wednesday, we are all responsible for doing some healing around skin color.
Yes.
Exactly, like
Exactly.
right. So we welcome, we just love you. You know, I
Love
want
you
to.
too. Thank you.
We love you, and we're here, Native Wellness Institute. We're here every Wellness Wednesday, and I wanted just to open up the world to Susanville, California, Rancheria, and the badass people that live here that love each other and that are good and kind and lateral kindness. So until next Wednesday, Kitakito Matsuno, I love you very much, and we'll see you next